All right, I'm going live. Today is Monday. I was going to go live yesterday, but it was the Super Bowl, and some people probably are glad. They probably was rooting for the Chiefs. I wasn't really rooting for the Chiefs because I was never a Kansas City Chief fan. Um, I'm not an Eagles fan either, but I'm glad the Eagles won. It just they were overhyping the Chiefs like they were just the world's best football team, and I'm like, they're good, but you put them against the right contenders, and that'll show you they're not as good. Um, I hadn't did a live thing in a while, in a few weeks, because I just hadn't been motivated. It's just too much junk going on, um, politically. That's you know, and a lot of my even people like me that's a veteran. Got my little retired hat on. Um, a lot of us are affected by our in threats of having our benefits cut, and that's um that's not a good thing, um because the cuts, um that affects people's income, like my income, because I'm retired and I get VA disability, and you don't want your benefits cut because we need those benefits. So that's why I've been motivated to make these videos. um So I'm trying to get myself back. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He said, just sit back and just get back into doing what you know you love to do. It's kind of hard to do that when your livelihood, your benefits are being threatened by people that don't need the benefits that you need. We talking about rich people. Rich people don't need Social Security or Medicaid or stuff like that. So that's the reason why I'm trying to get myself motivated back. But anyhow, oh, thanks, Maddie. To had yeah. Like I said, I was just kind of really wasn't been motivated, because all the stuff that's going on politically. That's a real threat. This is a real threat. I usually don't pay politics and politicians any attention, but this is something totally different. Um, and here in Tennessee, I'll just say this before I get on to the music stuff. The sad part about the whole deal is they're trying to pass laws that make you can only vote one way. If you vote another way, it's a felony. You can't you can't force people to vote one way. That's excuse my French, but that's complete bullshit. People like that shouldn't be in power. And that you talk about a person that need to be impeached. That need to be the governor of Tennessee, need to be impeached for even allowing a law like that. You can't make someone vote one way, make it illegal to vote. But anyhow, let me get on to music. Okay. How's it going, Quablo? I think I'm going to start working in the box. A lot of people are moving toward that. It's easy, because you can get yourself some software, whatever DAW, and almost all DAWs take plugins. You can record, you can edit, you can use the plugins, you can use virtual instruments. A perfect example of working in the box would be a software program like Reason. Reason is a 100% in the box type of program. All you need is a MIDI controller and software and some speakers, and of course you're gonna need an interface. And if you want to record vocals, at least a microphone. Um, and you get that with Reason Studio. It has pretty much everything you need to work in the box. But pretty much all the DAWs are like that. Studio One. You got Ableton Live, um, Logic Pro, Pro Tools, Cubase. They all can do it. Um, So that's a lot of people are just, it's just easier that way with just your laptop, your Mac or your PC, your MacBook Pro or your PC, a laptop or whatever. It's just a lot less stuff to worry about. Very, very simple. And it can, if you do it and you set your DAW correctly, your mixer, and you know how to use your auxiliary and your bus channels, it's going to sound pretty much close to analog anyway. The only reason why a lot of people aren't getting those big analog mixes in their studio, in their DAW, is because they just hadn't set up the mixer properly. But once you set up your mixer properly, you'll hear the difference. Even if you're just using your interface, you will hear the difference. But running it through an actual analog console like I do just gives it that extra oomph, that extra push, that extra fullness. That's the only really difference between someone that works in the box and someone that actually maybe they went to like a commercial pro level studio, like that may have a Neve or an SSL console or something like that, is because they're still running it through an analog console like an SSL or Neve. The Neve and SSL console is giving them that bigger sound. The plugins versus the real outboard gear. Yeah, it's the same thing. The outboard gear will give you just a little bit more, but the plugins in a mix will not. It's not gonna like working completely in the box. Like the analog is gonna blow the in the box away. It's not. You'll just hear it'll sound subtly a little bit bigger and a little bit warmer. It's probably sound 10 or 15% warmer using the analog gear, but it ain't gonna be like you're blown away. If it doesn't sound as good as the analog stuff, is because the mixer and your DAW is not set up right. In other words, you're probably putting reverb effects and stuff like that on the same channels as and that really what that does is muddy up. Engineers want to separate. They want to separate all effects from the actual channel, the channels, and they blend the two. That's what gives it that wider, fatter sound, and not as far as now dynamics, which is designed to control is designed to control volumes and peaks with gates, compressors, limiters, stuff like that. That's what you want to put on channels to control your loudness, your dynamics. But reverbs and effects need to be on separate channels. Welcome, JK. Welcome, J Productions and Born Shamir. Let me read what Qualo said. You say, when I'm trying to say is that I have a Roland Phantom, a core keyboard, which cost me a pretty plenty, but I'm hearing that those sounds in the box sound just as good as the outboard. Well, you think about this, a Roland, like as I have a Roland Phantom, I have, quite a few Phantoms, the G, the S, the X, the new Phantom. But I also have chords. I got chord Triton, Trinity, chord Cronus. I got a lot of boards. Most of the sounds in those type of keyboards are sampled sounds. They're modeled or sampled sounds in those keyboards that are on a hard drive in the keyboard. Well, it's no different than taking those same sounds and and you just download them, put them on your hard drive. So that's why they're going to sound, a lot of them are going to sound just as good. The only thing you got to think about, you just got to remember, when you download and use the sounds on your hard drive, on like a VST instrument, like I have the core collection, you got to remember your processor still, your computer's processor, whether it's a Mac or PC, not only does it has to process those sounds from your VST instruments, it's got to process what's going on in the DAW. It's got to process the plugins. It's still got to process the operating system that you're using. It's still got to process the video card so you can see, and it's still got to process the sound card. So that processor is working, and especially with all the RAM, versus if you just import your sounds and it just playing back audio it doesn't put nowhere near as much of a load on your PC and RAM. That's why one of the main reasons why I still use an actual outboard mixer and outboard gear, so I'm not bogging down my PC and RAM and I just let the DAW do its thing, because it's still got to work the operating system and the video card. So that's the reason why I do that. Let's see. Do I think you think about this, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm gonna say yes. Outboard gear, hardware outboard gear is in high demand. It's why they're still making it. It's why they're still introducing. If you think about it, I'll go like, for example, Behringer. Why do you think Behringer is still making the Behringer? They just introduced the JT16 and the Pro 16 and the JT. I think it's the Pro JT16, which is a Roland Jupiter imitation, right? The Roland keyboards, the Behringer DeepMind. They got the Behringer UBX-A, which is basically an Oberheim remake. They're still making outboard gear. Warm Audio, Stem Audio are making clones of all the classic vintage gear. That stuff is in high demand. Like I said, Behringer's come out with their Neve 73 clone. Warm Audio has their 73 clone. Heritage Audio, Vintech, all these clone companies are making hardware. So yes, there's in high demand. It's in super high demand, and there's reason why you see a lot of home. If you do a lot of home recording studio videos and watch, you'll never see someone that has just a keyboard, controller, an interface, the monitor and speakers, and that's it. They always have some sort of outboard preamp, a few outboard pieces of gear. And some of them they'll even build a desk where they have quite a few pieces of outboard gear on both sides. It's just the analog outboard sound that they want. It's in high demand, so that's not going anywhere. Plugins would definitely lessen the load, the need to buy. Like me, y'all seen my setup. I have racks and racks of outboard gear. Well, plugins eliminate a lot of need for that. But people still want that. So I know that's a long answer. Lucas, welcome, Lucas. It says, okay, you're saying your Avalon 77 went to revision and cleaning by an ISA 1. Okay, that's a good preamp. Smooth, pre-love. Yeah, that ISA 1 is basically based off if you ever seen the Focusrite consoles, they only made 10. It's called the Focusrite console. There's a story, you can watch it on YouTube. They only made 10. That was Rupert Neve's, one of Rupert Neve's last designs. Because he had started his own company, Neve, and then of course, with shareholders and all that, they kind of forced him out of his own company. So he started Focusrite. Then he sold Focusrite, not Focusrite, I'm sorry, it went to AMEC. And that's why you see AMEC, like the AMEC 90, 98 console and all that. Then he went with the Focusrite. But yeah, that preamp was a sought after preamp. Joseph Puick, Grammy Award-winning engineer, swears by the ISA 10 preamp circuit. He swears by it. So it's a really good, really good preamp. I don't own one. I thought about getting one because I have Avalons. I also have Neve clones. I have the Warm Audio. I have the Universal Audio 610 preamp. I also have some Joe Meek preamp. So, if I come across a good deal, I also have some Personuses and some, and I also got those. I'm drawing a blank on my own gear. The Art MPAs preamps. Those are really nice preamps. But I haven't thought about getting it because I always wanted to get myself a Personas ADL. Preamp. I definitely want to get that. It's called the Vipre. It was by Grutus. Austin, I forget his last name. He died a few years ago in a car accident. genius. If I get my hands on a Vipre, I listen to that Vipre. That Vipre is probably just listening to the engineer and what he did with that Vipre. Stands for variable impedance preamp. That probably is probably one of the best sounding preamps I've ever heard, ever. Um, but they're very rare and they're hard to get. But if you think about if you're looking at a Vipre, they're excellent preamps. So let me see. Oh, so quality. Did not think. Yeah. Okay. Um, and then oh yeah, so Jay says he's not a problem on the process. My M1 Max barely goes past. Yeah, the M1 I've heard is excellent. If you got an M1 Mac, M2, they even got up the M4 processor. They can handle the plugins and everything else. So, but if you haven't gotten that, then you got to kind of be careful on loading down your CPU and RAM. So, welcome, Maine. I'm good. Like I said, I just took a few weeks off because I don't like to get into politics, but you know, right now, with all these threats and cuts of trying to cut people's benefits, it's not motivating. Because like me, I'm a veteran, so you know, and I'll leave it at that. And it's just what's going on right now politically is not good. Um, so, um, yeah, right now, yeah, oh, thanks on my income. Yeah, right now my income is fine, but like I said, you just don't know. You just don't know because you got greedy people in there right now in office. They're greedy. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Uh, and that affecting, see, it's not affecting people like me that's a veteran. It's affecting the music industry, people's way of life. You think about it. Has the music industry and the entertainment industry has it really been the same? It hasn't. People can't really enjoy, except for people that are millionaires. Millionaires don't care, but the average people like you and I, we care. Are musically and everything else. So anyhow, that's why I don't really get into um the politics, but so I'll say Jones has said just picked up the new Harrison 32C Pre. Really like it. Okay. I don't know too much about the Harrison 32 Pre. I know that Bruce Sweeting was a Harrison console. He swore by it when he was alive. Because that's the console that they had down in Westlake for years before they got the SSL. Michael Jackson, a lot of stuff recorded with Michael Jackson's records, Barbra Streisand, some Queen records and stuff like that was recorded on the Harrison console. I know that they're just listening to the music done on those consoles. I mean, you're talking top of the line quality. I mean, up there with MCI, Neve, and so forth. So, I said, did I ever solder my gear? No, I haven't opened up talking about the Joe Meek where my VU meters are pegged. I think I got a blown capacitor. The preamp works. The preamp works fine. It's just that the meters, you're not getting accurate reading with the meters on the preamp, but I can monitor through the console my peak levels because I always go through the console before I record to the interface. But yeah, I want to get a schematic on it first before I do any soldering because I don't want to, solder something I shouldn't be soldering. All I need is the schematics on it, and then I can figure out what's in that signal path to figure out why those VU meters are pegged. As far as the Ultron, which is my Neve clones, I need to open up and see. I think it's got a blown capacitor on that too. The number one failure in electronics is always capacitors out of anything. Most electronics do not fail except for capacitors, because most companies buy cheap electrical capacitors. In case y'all didn't know that, that's the number one fault for most electronics that fail, because they use caps to regulate voltage, signal, and everything else. So if something is not working, you got an electronic piece of gear. If you can get a schematic on it, if you recap that component, usually comes back to life. This is the reason why analog consoles are recapped. They'll pull the channels out and recap the board, because that's what fails on those consoles. Once they recap the board comes back to life. All the other components hardly ever fail, like resistors, diodes, stuff like that. That stuff hardly ever fails. It's the capacitors, because of the heat. The heat is the number one culprit. So let me see. Jay says something. You're saying something. Sometimes I'll be working on music session and forget that Adobe Premiere Pro is open in the background with a 4K video edit. These Macs are, yeah, because sometimes how you look at your Macs. Macs are different than PC. I use both, and sometimes you have to, the way Mac's operating system is, you gotta kind of, oh wait a minute, let me close, because it'll be running and you don't even know it's running. And sometimes it happens with PC. Sometimes something will be open and running. Like in PC, you even got to go into the settings and on the startup, because they'll have stuff that starts up and running, and they'll be running in the background. And you don't know unless you do Control-Alt-Delete, and then see all that stuff that's running. You got to close all that stuff out. And then when you close all that stuff out, then you'll see, oh, okay, now it's not bogging down my RAM. Because I don't need anything slowing my, because everyone knows how PCs and sometimes Mac will lock up, and you don't want that happening when you're in the middle of getting your groove on and getting your projects going, and whatever, and all of a sudden it acts stupid, So let me see. So Maine says, I worked with the SB yesterday. Great show. Halftime show. I'm just not feeling, I know Lamar and all that, and that Brandy up there, and I just, maybe I don't know. I don't know. Okay, let me move on. So let me move on, because I don't want to make some people that really like Kendrick Lamar and all that, but it's not my thing. Oh, he said RJ thought retirement income cannot be retouched, right? We also thought about Social Security and Medicaid and all the other programs, but once again, retirement falls under DFAS, and DFAS is still a government organization. And like I said, you got this unhinged, unelected person think he can just cut whatever he wants. For those that don't know why, why do people, and I hate to go into politics, but I'll say this: why do certain groups want tax cuts? Because it's more money that they get to keep. Well, the money that they get to keep, if there's taxes that are paying for programs like cancer research, funding for special education purposes and all that, Social Security, VA, healthcare, and all these. Well, that money coming into the government, because the government works off of treasury bonds and everything else. But anyhow, for the income that we pay taxes, if they have to, all that money is going to taxes, it can't go to these people that want to pocket and make themselves. That's why. And that majority of those monies are not, they think it's wasteful spending, but no, a lot of those programs go to needs like women, infant, and children. Not everyone has an opportunity to work. It's kind of like someone who gets a bachelor's degree, a business administration degree, and think that there's, you got 50,000 people get BA degrees, but there's only 500 jobs. Well, you can't employ 50,000 people that have a BA degree and there's only 500 jobs. That means there's 45,500 people that can't get a job. Y'all get where I'm going with that. So he said, Mark, you got to stop watching CNN. No, this ain't got nothing to do with CNN. This ain't got nothing to do with Fox. If you're watching Fox or CNN, no, this is not a left or right thing. So, but anyhow, let me go back to Jay's he said, even though I'm here in Jamaica, those USA decisions affecting us too. Won't be ordering new camera gear anytime soon. Shipping is screwed down. Yeah, I mean, it's international. I mean, this is international crisis right now. So anyhow, that's why I don't like to get into politics, because some people, here's the thing when it comes to information, some people that watch certain sources of information, they think that's accurate. You got some people that watch Fox and they think Fox is accurate. You got some people that watch CNN and they think that's accurate. You got some people that watch MSNBC or the news in general. I know for a fact that, watching sometimes news is like watching a bad military movie. When I watch these military movies, and anyone on my channel has been in the military know that 99% of military movies are completely inaccurate. They think we go to war wearing dress uniforms. We do not go to war wearing dress uniform with all our ribbons. That's counterproductive. We don't run around driving Humvees as our personal vehicles. A Humvee is like a Hummer, but the military style, right? It's called an M998, which is a Humvee. It has an acronym, highly mobility something, mobile vehicle, something, I forget what it stands for. But a Humvee, or we run around, that's all we do all day is run around like we have access. No, your M16 or M4 or all your weapons are locked up in an arms room. You can't just grab it whenever you want. And even if you went to the arms room to get your weapon, the ammo's not stored in the arms room. They have to go, there's an ammo point and all that weapons in bunkers somewhere on posts. And only certain people can access it. But the military movie make you think you can just grab these weapons and whatever. No, you can't. Even if someone got all the weapons, you still got to get ammo. So military movies be wrong, just like they think you can shoot an AT-4 out of a helicopter. You're not firing a rocket launcher in a helicopter. You'll kill the entire helicopter. No, that's not happening. So military movies are the worst. They're so wrong. Even if when they do Ranger movies and Special Forces and Navy SEAL movies, but it's all for dramatics. Like when someone throw a grenade in the room and it just all of a sudden you see all this big giant explosion. Grenades don't work like that. But anyhow, moving on. Lucas Jr. Stewart says, he said, do you remember in the 90s, Elisa's brought Groove Tubes and they made the mic Elisa's GT AM 3622 with a mic. Nah, I'm not familiar with that mic. I wasn't aware that Elisa's actually bought Groove Tubes. I thought Aston Pittman still owned his own company, Groove Tube. I wasn't sure that Elisa's, but I do have some Elisa's products. But I wasn't aware. That's the first I've heard of that. But that's pretty cool to know, the AM62 and the AM52. Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know that. Oh yeah, so stuff like in the background on PC. Yeah, stuff is you got to be careful PC, because you got to remember PC. The operating system is Microsoft. Where Microsoft was making most of its money is through advertisement. That's why you'll see a ton of ads on if you got like Bing, or if you go to MSN, you'll see all this tons of ads. They were paying advertise, because that's how companies make money, through advertisement. Companies pay for advertisement time. Macs don't have as much of that going on. And this is the reason why I don't use MSN or Bing as a search engine. A lot of people, there was Safari, there's Yahoo, there's Google. Google doesn't have hardly any ads going on. Um, so that's why you can just, whatever the case, it's a little easier on the RAM. Let me see. Zone Recording Studios. You're asked, let's see. Um, Thinking about adding the Harrison 32C mix strip in my setup as a sidecar on my console. Yeah, 2K is strip. Well, it's Harrison, Um, so it's like SSL, they're gonna for the name. But they're great sounding. I mean, Harrison makes really good stuff. Like I said, I listen to a lot of records done on Harrison consoles. They sound amazing. So um let's see, 20 mil for Sesame Street show in Iraq. That's super. That's how about helping some homeless veterans first? And here's the thing. Let me tell you about the homeless veteran because I'm a veteran. Most veterans, if you always hear about homeless veterans, um, the legit homeless veterans. I hate to get into military, but a lot of homeless veterans made bad choices. You know, some of them do 2 or 3, 4 years. A lot of people, because veterans are still people, they're still human. Get in there, you start getting into alcohol and drugs and everything else. But it's not as many homeless veterans as you think. Most of those people are faking. I being a veteran, we know when a legitimate veteran because there's lingo, there's certain things. When a person that serves, it doesn't matter if you're the Marine Corps, Air Force, Army, like I was, the Navy, whatever. There's certain things that we know. Um, and I've talked to some fake veterans, homeless veterans, and they're clueless because they try to get their information from watching movies. Like a lot of people think G.I. Jane is an example. They actually think that if you ever watched the movie G.I. Jane, and there was supposed to be army guys in there and other branches, no other branch can go to SEAL training but sailors. There's a process for sailors to go through BUDS training. No other branch can go. Army guys cannot go to BUDS training. Why would an army guy need to go to BUDS training when we got special forces training? It's the same special operations community, So, but yeah, my point is that there's lingo. Like anyone that served in the army knows when I say the S2 or the S1, that's all I gotta say. They know exactly what I'm talking about. If I was in the army, still back in the army right now, and say, "Hey, where you going?" Well, I'm about to run up the S1 right quick. They know exactly what I'm talking about. People that are not in the military and they're trying to fake the military, they try to use Google, and this is why they get uniforms wrong. This is why you see guys that are what we call the stolen valor guys running around in uniform, and they put the uniform. They see the first thing I see whenever I see someone in what we call our battle uniform, ACU or BDU or whatever you call, and they got a medal on a camouflage uniform. We automatically know they didn't serve. Automatically. Because we know that's not in accordance with AR 670-1. We already know that guy don't know the regulation. Anyone that goes to basic training, is drilled in you the whole entire time for base training about how your uniform is supposed to look and how you're supposed to wear it. It's drilled into you every day. So, that's enough about the military. But so the homeless veteran thing is not, because most time, even as a veteran, when you're a veteran and you get a DD-214, which is your discharge form, it still allows you to get a job as a post office person because you can get veteran preference to work for the post office, fire department, police department. There's a lot of jobs that will hire veterans. And then most veterans, if you pick the right job, whether it's supply, communications, medical, that stuff will transfer over to get you a job. So it's not as many homeless veterans as you think there are. Um, so um, moving on from that. So um, yeah, Jay saying there's something about let me see. The international shipping was already insane. Yeah, like I said, and like I said with this tariff thing, they backed off on this tariff thing because the stock market started to plummet. So they backed off on the tariff thing. It was, I don't want to get into politics because a lot of it is scare tactics too. So, but yeah, tariffs is, now we're talking about the whole. I mean, I've been to Jordan and I've been in the Middle East. It's one of the most dangerous areas in the world because the Sunnis and the Shiites are fighting over Muslim religion. And anyone that knows about the Muslim culture know that Sunnis and Shiites don't like each other because they're fighting over. It's Muslim. The fight. This is a religious fight. And when you talk about religion, now we're getting into beliefs. So anyhow, moving on to so it's expensive right now, especially for gear and everything else. And you gotta remember, you're in Jamaica. Anytime you're on an island, doesn't matter if you're in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, all this stuff got to be flown in. So you're already going to have import. They're going to mark it up because it has to be flown in. So Jamaica, yeah, I can definitely understand how Jamaica could be hit because Jamaica is on an island. So yeah, right there in the Atlantic, in the Caribbean. So T-Mac Clip says, what do you think about BandLab app? I hadn't really been going to the BandLab app as much. I use Cakewalk because that's one of my main dolls, but I haven't really been going to the BandLab app itself. It's supposed to be an app about a community of Cakewalk musicians and producers that want to interact. I just never got the chance to do it. And now they're changing because now BandLab is starting to charge again. They're going back to charging. So I kind of been moving over to Luna and back in the Studio One and trying to get back up with the other dolls and really start working with my Cubase. I still use Cakewalk, but Cakewalk, it's what it is. So in Jamaica, it's almost illegal to wear army tops. Actual soldiers will stop. In most countries, you believe it or not, I saw something on YouTube. I saw a guy. This is in a country in Africa. I can figure out the country. And he was wearing an army, one of their country's army top. And he was wearing a uniform. And real soldiers stopped him, asking why he's wearing a uniform. And they found out he tried to say he was in the army, and of course they found out they're gonna ask you the same question: who's your commander, and all this stuff, and he couldn't name it. They were really about to beat him down. Now in the United States, you can wear military apparel, you just can't wear it the way soldiers or sailors, Marines wear it. In other words, if you wear, you're supposed to remove the unit. Or especially on Army, you're supposed to remove the unit patch, supposed to remove the U.S. Army from it. You can wear, because a lot of guys use those what we call ACUs, Army Combat Uniform, or BDUs, Battle Dress Uniform. The name changes as the pattern change. For like going into the woods, you can use it as camouflage for hunting. It's not illegal to do that. You're supposed to not wear any rank. You're not supposed. There's a lot of stuff that you're not supposed to wear, but it's perfect. The uniform itself, the top, you can wear that all day long. You just can't wear certain stuff that people on active duty or even the reserves wear. So, like me, I don't really care because it don't affect me. I don't really care what people wear. Even the people that trying out there, they're trying to be fake. They're faking in the military. I don't really care because what are you gaining from it? A lot of people say with discount on meals. I don't really care about that. But some people they're highly offended. I'm like, well, Um, you know, it really depends on the person and what they're really trying to do before I start to get offended on that. But anyhow, so look, you see, Quablo says I think I'm suffering from mental health, thinking that analog sounds so much better than digital. I'm thinking I'm being fooled by the consumer. Let me tell you, do I think analog sounds better than digital? A little bit. Do I think analog is blowing away digital? Not really. Um, it's no different than, the best way I can describe it is record something vocally, right? In your interface, um, onto your DAW, right? Well, if you think about this for a second, the minute that you record something to your interface, you of course to your preamp, into the interface, into your computer, it's already been converted to digital. So when you play it back in your DAW, the converter in your interface converts it back to analog. So it's partly digital anyway, it's just been converted. So you're listening to, because digital itself is really not sound. Digital is binary, it's ones and zeros. But for us to hear and understand it, it has to be converted back. That's why we have an AD and then DA converter. But also think about, if you sample something, like I sample something on my MPC Renaissance here, or I sample something in my keyboards, like my Triton over there or whatever, I sample and play it back. It's been sampled. Or another way to describe it is, you think about if you take a picture of something and you look at the picture, it's not printed on film, it's printed on a digital card, and there's a converter, there's a VD. That's another thing, that what we call VD to VDA, in other words, VD to DV, video to digital, digital video, like your video card is being converted to digital for the computer to understand, and then be converted back from digital back to the video so you can see it, the image. So that's all you're seeing. So if you look at a picture, like, where's my picture? I printed off my infamous J-Lo picture. That's digital, but that's a nice looking picture, ain't it? Anyhow, that's an example of what we're doing when it comes to music and everything else. You're just sampling. That's what you're doing, is you're sampling at a sample rate. So when you're listening to sound, it's like, the best way I can describe it is like when it comes to film. Film is nothing but motion pictures. It's just a bunch of pictures. You're taking, for example, 30 frames of a picture a second, or 24 frames of a picture a second. But what makes it motion is every picture, there's something in the picture, like my hand may be moving. Every picture, might be slight. If you look at every individual frame, and the hand might be slightly, changing slightly per picture. The same thing with sound. When you're using the AD to DA converter for sound, you're just hearing the notes being sampled, so you're listening, but in sound, instead of being 24 frames, you're talking thousands, like 44,000 sounds a second, if that makes sense. So that's why you hear 44.1 or 48 or 96 or 192 and so forth. That makes sense. So we listen to audio, you're just listening to sample recorded sounds, and it's being played back. That's a long general answer. So I don't know if that makes sense between hard, digital, and analog. Now, to be completely analog, then there'd be no ADD, there'd be no interface involved. Like like let's say you record it through your console to a tape machine, like a 2-inch Studer tape machine. Yeah, then that's completely analog. But tape works off magnetic properties. But anyhow, that would be an analog. But if you got some sort of digital in the picture anywhere, your converter or whatever, your computer, that's partially digital. So that's why people are more hybrid than they claim to be. So let me see. Tim Cliff said, I make music on it's pretty cool. The future. Yeah, as far as digital, that I mean, if you're using a DAW, you're pretty much hybrid. So um oh, you talking about about as far as wearing army bottoms like shorts or I mean, I've seen videos where a guy could be wearing and they may be legit or not legit. I've seen so many stolen valor videos, guys wearing a uniform, and all of a sudden someone stops them because they, not realizing I call them the stolen valor police, not realizing, yes, that person can wear an army or a marine or navy outfit as an outfit. And then all of a sudden they want to start questioning and stolen valor. Like, what are you going, take that uniform off. I have people that died. They always use that excuse, oh, yeah, someone that died in that uniform. They probably, um, but it's like this. You got some people that they want to build a YouTube and they need the clickbait. I've seen them go up to people and they start asking them questions, but then I go around and how like you have an old guy that served in Vietnam and you joined the military, you joined the army in 2010 or whatever. You don't know what the standards and the regulations and all that were for how soldiers went in the military in Vietnam. You don't know how the military worked in Vietnam. These guys be 23, 24-year-old want to question someone that served in like 1975. You don't even know what the regulations are. The MOS, the names for the MOSs, which the jobs change. Like someone says, what was your MOS? And the guy says, for example, it's 92 Fox. That's a fueler, right? In mid 90s and older, it wasn't 92 Fox. It was 77 Fox. And the guy says, well, I was a 77 Fox. 77 Fox, I never heard of that. Stolen valor, because these are idiots. That's the problem with people that, people that never served beyond a platoon in the company. They never served at a battalion or brigade, or they don't know the big picture. They've only know the company. And so they think they're an expert on the military. They don't even know how e-milpo works or ATARs work and all this other stuff. Because they only served 3 years, but also they think they're an expert on the entire military. And especially if I'm in the army and I see some guy in a Marine uniform, I don't know how the Marines work for me to go and cue some guy Marine stolen valor. And I've never served in the Marine Corps. I don't even know how they, how they work. I know general stuff about the Marine Corps, but not enough to be challenging someone about the Marine Corps. I don't even know about the Marine Corps, but anyhow, so moving on. I get into these little tirades when it comes to that, because I served in the army. So, but anyhow, so T-Max Cliff says, what you think about organized pyramids? Organized pyramids? I've never heard of that, so I don't have a comment on it. So I don't have a comment on it. You had to probably give me some clarification on it. So analog, RJJ says, analog gear can make your music sound 3D. I don't necessarily make it sound 3D. The only really big difference between hearing something that's like completely digital compared to analog, it's like think of harmonics, or think of analog for the most part has a little bit of a thicker sound to it. That's the only way I can really describe analog. Digital, because digital is sample of analog, or emulation of analog, it's not going to have that 100%. That's why they're doing everything they can with plugins and everything else, and amp modeling and tape saturations and all these different plugins to make it sound, they're trying to make it sound bigger to make it sound like analog. The same, where you get a 1176 or LA2A plug-in. And a lot of these, they have to program it, and a lot of times they use a lot of RAM and processing to make it sound as close to the real thing as possible. Because the one thing about your computer, it don't have tubes and op amps and things like that in it that the real piece of gear has. And those tubes and op amps and circuits like that is what gives it its character. So yeah, that's the reason why a lot of times, if you want to be like analog, you have to incorporate analog gear if you want to be as close to analog as possible. So Jace Thomas asked me, are you familiar with the K300 sound card? No, I'm not. I'm sorry, sure not. Once you're gonna have to school me on that one too. I'm not familiar with it. Bobby says those stolen valor are interesting. It's like watching the con artists get cut. Okay, like I said, I was talking about someone that served in the military, like stolen valor. Like there's things like we'll say like what times PT. The first thing we all usually 90% of us, no matter brands, you say PT 0630. So when I say 0630, someone that served in the military, they automatically mean okay, formation is going to be, we need to be at formation around 0620, 10 minutes prior. That's a common. You'll never see that. They'll never say that in the. They'll never say that in the movie. They'll never say that. Trying to watch YouTube videos or whatever, because things like when we say, okay, what time's formation 0630, and military movies always get this wrong. But if I say someone that served in the military and I say PT 0630, anyone that served in the army knows. Okay, they know exactly what that means, and they know I need to already be formed up in formation, and they know we fall in by rank. In other words, your squad leader might be a sergeant or a staff sergeant. Then you got the sergeant, then you got the specialist, and you got the PFC. Everyone falls in rank order in their squad, and you're already formed up. And you're already in formation at 0620. If you come in after that, you're technically late. And then after that, they know it. When 6:30 happens, the first thing I'm going to say, he'll usually pops up about 1 or 2 minutes prior, because guess what's happening at 6:30? Because soon 6:30, what's the first thing we start to hear when 6:30 hit? Boom, on the dot. And they'll say, company, platoon, attention, present arms, and everyone knows this. But a stolen valor person don't know that. They don't know that. So that's how they get busted. It's things like that. So okay. Thanks, Qualos. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it. Thanks. So Eric, welcome, Eric. What do I think about beat making with AI? I think if AI is used properly as a tool, it can work. When you start using AI as a replacement, now we got a problem, right? What do I mean by that? I don't want to go to a show and watch a computer. If I go to a show, I don't want to go to a show to watch a computer. I want to go to a show to watch a human, because a computer don't have feelings. It doesn't know how to interact with me, the crowd, or whatever. It does not talk to the crowd. AI, it may be able to generate and emulate, and it's copying whatever, whatever it may be, copying or emulating a human voice or a track or whatever, but it's still using algorithms to do that. And sometimes human interaction is the best interaction because it feels more authentic. So that's my thought on that. If you use it as a tool, great. But if you use it as a replacement, no. I don't want no AI trying to replace me. AI can't replace me. So Tom Cliff said YouTube trend. Yeah, it's AI. They try to use AI for everything. Believe it or not, when you're they're using AI. Like if you like, I went to Taco Bell the other day, and the first thing that comes up on the monitor is, "Welcome to Taco Bell. Will you be using your MOAC today?" And then I go, "No, whatever." Then the real person, "Welcome to Taco. How can I help you?" That's the real voice. That one voice is an AI voice. You know. So anyhow, um, Tom Cruise, what do you think the music is missing nowadays? Because it definitely don't hit like it used to. Being more creative. That's what I think the music industry is missing. Um, Prime example, go back, listen to listen, even if you go back and listen to go back and listen to um okay, uh whether it's a I'll use Kendrick Lamar since he performed at the Grammy or at the halftime show for the Chiefs and the Eagles, right? Yesterday. And go back and listen to like Me Against the World with Tupac. Or go back and listen to um go back and listen to Biggie Smalls. Or go back and just go back to that era and really pay attention to the music. Um just go back and listen to any of the Tupac records, because Tupac is everything's prior, because Tupac was killed in '96, right? So anything Tupac prior, listen to as an example, right? Um the melodic structure of melody isn't there. Everyone's doing this monotone thing now. And that's, to me, is not musical. It's kind of like when I listen, what do you want to do now? What do you do, girl? I mean, yeah. And it's like, but if I go back and listen to what defined how Stevie Wonder used to sing when in his prime, 70s and 80s, or Earth, Wind and Fire, the melodic structure of those tracks. That's what music is missing. That's just about it. Like I said, when I do my music production stuff, y'all see what I'm talking about. Um, um, and that's the thing. And then I think what here's the result. There's nothing wrong with liking hip hop or anything like, or just music. That there's nothing wrong with it, but you want to hear where they're still implementing musicality. They're still trying to do is like listen to Bruno Mars. Listen to a lot of these K-pop artists, these Korean popular artists. They're still modern, but they're still implementing musical composition and things like that, especially in K-pop. Um, and Bruno, and this is modern today. We're not doing that here in the US. Um, even though a lot of people like it, but why you think people still sampling why you think people are still sampling old school stuff? Because technically, psychologically, they want that musical structure. But you got a lot of people, they're not like me. I'm a full-fledged musician. I don't have to sample. I can literally create. Like, for example, I don't know if a lot of y'all watched the video when I did about the Christmas stuff, and I had the Christmas song, and I was, about the Christmas. You heard her singing the song. I'm literally playing every part in that arrangement. I'm playing the bass, I'm playing the keys, I did that. I literally played all those parts. Um that's what's missing. You got a lot of guys that they don't play. And I said it's important to learn how to play, because that you're no one can be more personal than you when it comes to creating it. I don't need to use another sample for my idea. I don't need to, some people might hear something, I like that, but that's not your own. My ideas come from my head. I want to be able to lay down my ideas because I hear it the way I hear it. Um, and that's not being done either. So I know that's a long answer, but so um Matthew says, I'm still saving up for an analog front end. Probs need about 3,000 Australia. It's gear isn't expensive, but you do for about that amount of money, 3,000, believe it or not, you don't have to have an Avalon 737 like I got. You can do extremely well with a channel strip like the Personas channel strip, about $300, and you'll be perfectly fine. Because what's going to be about that Personas is most of the time those preamps like that have more electronics, give your vocals a little bit more warmth um, than just the interface preamp. Most interface preamps are just pretty basic. They do that on purpose so that um, it saves them the cost of building thousands of interface. Because if they start building these interfaces with all the circuits of an external preamp, those interfaces will be like triple the cost. So that's why they're pretty basic sounding. But a nice preamp would definitely, you can 3,000, you can do a nice preamp, a nice compressor, a nice microphone, and all that for three. You can actually build some nice stuff for 3,000. You don't have to have one Avalon for 3,000 and get a nice sound. So let me see. Let me see. So Takumi says, hello, I'm thinking about buying the Behringer 369 and the Master Bus. I do notice the difference when using analog mixer. But yeah, it's that's what I was just talking about, hearing the difference. Going back to I think those 369 or Behringer 369s are backlogged. And they introduced those things in June of last year, and they're still backlogged. So, and I think it has a lot to do with, with the, getting the semiconductors to build the units and things like that. So, Mentally say, what do I think about punching in and auto tune? Because everybody's doing it, even in R&B. Punching in is fine. Auto tune, I'm not really a big fan of. To me, the artists that I have, we just redo. If we hear something out of pitch or out of tune or whatever, we just re-record the part. But I work with artists that are. I try to work with artists that are their ear is there. They can hear, so they know they can hear when they can hear when their pitch is off, and they'll go back and say. And sometimes I'll listen to it and re-record and say, "Oh, sounds fine." It's no. The way I sung that word, that note, I didn't like the way I phrased this little word or whatever. So we'll punch that back in. But I have really, really, what's the, I don't want to say nitpicky, but very artists that are very keen like that. So I don't really use autotune a lot because everyone I use, they sing in tune. So that's all I can say on that. But punching in is kind of necessary because it saves. You set up your punching points. You don't have to remember when to punch in. You can auto do it. Okay, I'm gonna set my punch in at 2 minutes and 13 seconds. It automatically punch and start recording, and then it'll punch out. For those 8 bars or 4 bars or whatever. That's what I do. So I use punch in all the time. Vigilante says, and welcome, Vigilante. Repeat, they not like us a million times isn't. Well, and another buddy of mine was talking about, well, the music has changed, and it's just it's the change in the music and all that. And it's true. It is a new era. The music's different now, but when I can say it, oh yeah, Vigilant said K-pop is very much, yeah, that's to me, that's why I listen to K-pop as an example, because, or even India music, or just, anything that has And like I said, when I can really explain it when I'm going to do my production. I said I was going to do it. I am going to do it. Um, about music production. Um, so I'll kind of explain a little bit more why I think stuff sounds musical and when stuff doesn't. Um, and Now, oh, your Avenger said, I like sampling and creating from scratch. I create from scratch. And now, don't get me wrong, when I say I don't sample, because I don't, I'm not saying that you can't sample, but the problem with sampling, here's only one thing about sampling. I'll say this: you have to be careful how you sample, because if you're sampling where it's obvious it's someone else's track, that will get you in a lot of trouble quick. But if you use a sample to manipulate a sample to be creative with it, well, that's no different than, it's like trying to copyright sounds on a keyboard that you buy. You can't get sued for using the sounds that came in the keyboard. They're free use sounds. You can never get in trouble for using sounds. You can only get in trouble for using people's compositions. This falls into copyright. But so how is all basically how you are creative with the sounds or the sampling. Um Tactical Media says some people don't even know the notes. Well, and it's true. But for people that, if you don't know notes, let me give you a quick 2-second lesson. Musically, there's only 7 notes. That's it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's only 7 notes. Now, there are, each of one of those 7 notes could be altered, where you can either flatten that note or sharpen that note, meaning A flat or A sharp. All 7 notes could be done that way. And to come up with scales, which is nothing but a group of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then you start over. You start a new higher pitch scale or lower pitch scale, depending on which direction you go. And if you go A, B, C, D, F, G, it starts over, right? Now you want to start on a whole new lower or higher scale, right? So a higher scale, and each scale has a certain set of notes that are altered and certain notes that are not, right? For example, D only has 2 notes you have to alter in its scale. So if you go D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Well, the F and the C are the only 2 notes that you alter to make them sharp to make a D scale. And this is done for all 15 keys. There's 7 keys that have notes that are sharp, 7 keys and notes that have been flat. And so chords are just a combination of all those notes in those scales played at the same time. And that's a quick music lesson. Once people realize that, that's what you're listening to. You're listening to rhythmic structure of notes being played at the same time. Very, very simple. Well, I'm going to talk about all that when I do the music production stuff. So Arja said, do you know a transparent preamp that doesn't color your sound? And well, let's see. Price range, if you want an expensive preamp that doesn't really color your sound but gives you a nice warm fat, that high-end fat warm sound, would be like an Avalon 737. But if you want a more affordable preamp that's not going to really color your sound and still going to give you a nice sound, would be like an Art Pro MPA. Like I have the Art Pro MPA 2. Those usually run about $300 to $400. They use, and most of those are 2-channel. $300 to $400. They're really great sounding preamps and affordable, and doesn't really color your sound like a Neve or an API. Neve and APIs are really known to color your sound. That's why Neve and API sound a little different in their own character. As an example. So let me see. See, Avenger said, yeah, that's sad. Oh, yeah, as far as the notes. But it's just that it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So that's literally basic. So that's why I just gave a quick class on notes. Like I said, there's only 7 notes. And those 7 succession of notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, played together, or play in one after the other, is called a scale of notes. They're just a scale of notes. And each one of those notes can be altered. You take an A, B, like if you start on C, C is the neutral key, neutral starting point. That's why if you start on C, you go from C up to C again. That's why you don't alter any of those notes. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's why there's no sharps or flats in that scale. And because of those groups of notes are grouped together to be used, we key those groups, meaning a key. So what key is it in? It's the key of C. So we're going to use the key of C scale notes. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's the key signature of notes, right? But if we start on A, well, A has 3 sharps in it, right? So you have to alter 3 of those notes to go from A to A. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, right? So those are 3 notes sharp in that key. But some notes have to be flat. Like instead of playing the B, you play a B flat. So you have to flat the B. Then you go C, D, E. Instead of playing E, you play E flat. F, G, A, B flat. So 2 notes have to be flat if you start on the B flat to play that scale. And then every other note being played in that scale, a group of notes, at least 3, we call it a triad. So if you go C, D, E, C, E, D, E, F, G, when you play the C, E, and the G together, you make a C chord harmony, right? And so that's, believe it or not, learning music is actually fairly easy. And you understand what's going on, you'll be amazed how much more creative you can be when you understand what's going on in music, especially when I start talking about music theory, which I'm going to talk about music theory. So let me see what else. RJ just said, have I ever used the Akai DPS-24 digital console? No, I have not. I sure haven't. Welcome, man. Welcome. We're just talking music and gear and recording, stuff like that. And welcome, James. He says Grace M501 is a great transparent preamp. I've never heard of the Grace M501, so there's some lot pieces of gear people that one person talked about the late Elisa's AM52 and 62 earlier. I've never heard of those mics, but there's a lot of gear I haven't heard of. Man, yeah, music is math. Yeah, basically, that's if you understand musically what's going on, music is basically math and notes constructed together to create sound and rhythm. Because the drums is playing rhythm, right? The bass is usually following the rhythm of the drum, especially the kick. But the bass is usually playing the root of chords. And then you got chords, keyboards and guitars, you play chords, and then you got melodic structures on top of that, synth lines, strings, horns, all this stuff put together to create sound compositions, right? So, but there are a lot of people that don't understand that. So that's why a lot of times they're forced to create music in a certain way. But if you understand what's going on musically, other than that, a lot of times playing the instrument is the only other thing that you need to make yourself do is to practice, and then become second nature. And before you know second nature, you can, that's all, it's muscle memory after that. So I can play, like I play keyboards, I can play keyboards with my eyes closed because I've been playing so long. It's just muscle memory. It's so second nature. Taco says, do I recommend to have drums in separate channels, or is it okay to have them on a stereo track in a drum machine context and mixing them in the drum? You can actually do both, but here's what a lot of engineers do. They may have, let's say I have kick, snare, hi-hat, toms, room mics, overheads, right? All on here. A lot of times don't bust that into a two stereo track. So they do that so they can put a bus compressor, a drum bus compressor on that drum mix. So a lot of times you can get away with just having a stereo track for your drums anyway, because most engineers are going to bust them into a two stereo track anyway when they're from the mix down. They just get their mix here, and they might set up a group mix, a group VCA, so they can control all the drum volumes. Once they get the drums levels like they want, they'll bust that into. Then I have a two bus channel volume like here. I might have stereo buses here, and then I'll put a drum bus on it or whatever, EQ or whatever. And from there, I can put my bus compressor and everything on that, and then that's going to sum into my final master bus. So that's what a lot of times what you're hearing on these mixes. So let me see. Quest, welcome, Quest. What hardware EQ would you recommend for sub bass at 20 hertz? Hardware, if you, because there's not many that go that low. I know GMLs do it. Because I usually don't go that low. The lowest I've ever went on drum on anything that low is about 40 hertz, because all you're really just doing is getting so much low end energy at 20 hertz. My Orbans can do it, but I really don't go anything that low. Now they go to 30. So I'm trying to think. No, I don't really have any. I don't know. Let me take that back. I really don't know, because I don't have anything that goes that low. I don't mix anything that low at 20 hertz. So, but so in that's really, really low. I don't know anything that you're gonna reference other than just a lot of low end energy. Even your 808s are probably 40 hertz. Most things are 60. You start going 40, that's just a lot of that's really, really low. At 40 hertz, that's a lot. That's really, really low. And you got to be careful with that, especially you better have some serious, because you can overmix that low end, and you can get out, because if anything knows about sound energy, this is the reason why you can hear bass farther than you can hear high end. Like you ever hear someone watching something and the door's closed, you'll hear the low end information before you hear the high end. And when you open the door, then you can hear all the information from the audio. But if you close the door, all you hear is that little. That's all you, because low end, the energy is, the waves are bigger, the frequency is bigger. So, let me see what else. Ogapix, welcome, Ogapix. Oh, good thing. Salute to me. Appreciate you. Money Music Theory, you covered it all. Thanks. So let me see. Is it easier to learn music playing a keyboard or a guitar? I've always said this, because the guitar and the keyboard are the main two instruments that usually carry most of the chord harmony information, like when you're using pianos or electric pianos, guitar. I've always said this. I think personally a guitar is a harder instrument to initially learn, but it becomes an easier instrument it becomes an easier instrument to progress at, simply because most of your right hand is mostly doing all the picking, or strumming of the strings. You're only using one hand to really chord or solo. Piano, you're using both hands, and you really have to, and your foot, because it's the foot pedals involved. So it takes a lot more work. So piano is usually an easier instrument. It's an easier instrument to initially start to learn, but it becomes a harder instrument if you don't practice to perfect. if that makes sense. This is why a lot of times you someone that um this is why a lot of times when you guys that learn how to play bass guitar or guys that learn how to play guitar, um yeah, it's initially because one, if you try to bar chords, this part of it really works, but once your hand get used to it, once your hand gets used to it, um then your fingers build up the strength. Before you know it, you're doing Eddie Van Halen stuff. Um, but a piano is because your hands are, because you got the way the keys are structured, it can be, your fingers are constantly rearranging themselves. And then you're thinking at the same time with your foot. But once you get used to, like, man, I've been playing keys for 43 years. It's so second nature. People are like, man, you make that look super easy. Well, I've been playing for 40 some years. But it was not like that my first year. Trust me, it was hard like anyone else trying to learn. So let me see. Man Clip says, what's the best cheap mic to get that's good quality? Believe it or not, the mic I'm using here, I didn't realize it was turned a little bit. This is a MXL 2006. You can probably get them used probably $70-$80. And if you want to hear what it sounds like compared to expensive mics, there's a website called Audio Test Kitchen. And you can listen to what this mic sounds like, or you listen to what it sounds like now. You could probably get them used cheap on eBay or whatever, under $100 for a condenser mic. Dynamic mic, SM58. Those are usually under $100 for a dynamic mic. And trust me, you can do really great recordings with this mic. So let me see what else. Oh man, says turn on my damn super chats. I keep forgetting to do it. I gotta make myself a note. Man says I need to turn on my damn super chats. So let me make a note of that. Put on super chats, Mark. Super chats. I got it right here. Super chats. I got it written. So next time I'll do it. Oh, man says, say I can do it right now. I will. Maine says music also forces you to use the both sides of your brain. If you start getting into theory, like progressions, modulations, intervals, figure based, and so forth, and using chord progressions and things like that, and to theory, just basic theory and jazz modes, using pentatonic scales, diatonic scales, you're using Mixolydian scales, Dorian scales, and so forth. But like I said, I want to do a theory class, but I got to make sure people understand the basics first, how to construct a C triad chord. Then we start getting to C, major sevens versus a C7, a dominant. Then we start getting into ninths, 11ths, 13ths. How to make a minor chord, C minor seventh, which is C, E flat, G, and B flat, C minor seventh chord. Inversions, one of the secrets to a keyboard player is they're always constantly inverting, instead of always playing in root position. You ever see, and what I mean by that, as a keyboard player, people that always learn to play everything in root position, not realizing that it's a lot easier to go from chord to chord to chord to chord by inverting. You're mentally inverting your chord so you can go from chord to chord easily. And there's different versions, first inversion, second inversion. But like I said, when I get in that, people got to know how to construct the chord first before we know how to invert it. We had this rule that they used to teach when I was learning theory, is that you have to know the rules in order to break the rules. But understanding, for example, this is the reason why what I'm going to do. This is, and I got to make a note. I will do this for the next live stream too. So you can, I'll actually hook up so you can, I'm set up where you can hear when I start giving examples. So I'm gonna say, let me make a note. Set up for next live stream. So I want people to be able to hear. It's kind of like it's kind of like man, he just said ear training. Like if I go, believe it or not, psychologically, when you're hearing harmony, right? Hey, welcome, Joseph. You said what up? Welcome, Joseph. Psychologically, if I play a chord and I go da 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 da, and that top note da, a singer psychologically is drawn to start singing that the highest note they hear in the chord arrangement, right? Da 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 da. So if I drop that da da, drop it an octave low, and they hear da da da, they're going to start singing da. It's psychological. So if I da and I add the da 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 that ornament, that interval, right? Da. If I hear that, they'll automatically switch to the from the da to the da. It doesn't matter if it's a male or female singer. They'll do that without even psychologically know that they're doing that. And that's how harmony works. So if I hear that da da that third da, drop it a half step down, da da da, da right, that drop it a half, your brain's going to psychologically pick that when people hear harmony. This is the reason why when you have background singers and a lead singer have to automatically tune themselves to what the chord structure is being played by the keyboard player or the guitar player. If they don't, they don't have their ear training is off. This is why you'll have singers that are pitchy and can be off, and they won't match because they're not in tune with the hearing of harmony. And this could be a problematic if they're trying to construct harmony to sing parts. It's kind of like if you ever listen to a singer and I can key change, modulate, right? And a song could be done. Now we're in this key, done, right? They don't hear that it changed, and they'll still be in that key. That could be very critical. And this is why you've heard some people, this is why it's crucial for a singer to learn ear training when they're playing, because if not, it's when they're off and they're pitchy, it's super noticeable. This is the reason why American Idol makes singers sing without music in auditions. They want to see if they have critical ear train, are they critically ear trained, and they're not pitchy. This is why you would hear Randy all the time talking about, you're pitchy, dog, you're pitchy, because he can hear when you're in key and when you're not, if that makes sense. So okay, Tactical Me said the M7 sounds warm. What's the M7? And elaborate for me on that. And it sounds so warm. Give me what you mean by the M7. Man says styles of harmony give a sound to each band. Alice and Chains were also perfect force and fifth harmonies, background vocals for most pop songs, major bass counterpoints. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, harmony is it's I mean, any group, whether it's Alice in Chains, any group, anyone that's a professional artist, most of the time when they're a professional artist, they're pretty much well developed. But there are some people that have gotten in the music industry that you like they shouldn't be in the music. A lot of times, sometimes people get in the industry and you're like, I don't know how they did it. They knew somebody. Oh man says the sure M7V, I think. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, so music is crucial, is music and understanding theory and the music and all that is crucial if you really want your productions. Um, I'll give you a good example when it comes to um what makes something memorable. Um, Here's a question for people that are watching. How many of y'all have heard of the song? You know, I'll use Stevie Wonder as an example. Um, um, you know, you are the apple of my eye. Um, I can't remember this. I'm drawing a blank now. But anyhow, think about that song as an example. Um, or let me see, I can go Ribbon in the Sky as an example. Um, the harmony parts in it, Sunshine of My Life. That's it. Thanks, Born Shamor. Sunshine of My Life. Think about that. Even today, it's 2025. Now, he recorded that song in the 70s, right? Now, here's another question. Jermaine Dupri, when he was dating Janet Jackson for that short amount of time, decided he's going to produce an album for Janet Jackson. Name one song from that album. Without Googling it. Without Googling it, right? Exactly. No one's writing yet. Exactly. You're going to have to Google that album with Jermaine Dupri. Um, so my point, uh, my point why that song, because when you have people, it's okay. A lot of times, yeah, we can remember rhythm because rapping is basically it's not singing it, it's basically talking with rhythm, right? So whether it's Busta Rhymes or LL Cool J or any rapper, it's easy to remember the rhythmic of a rap. But vocally, you think about that, more people can remember Sunshine of My Life by Stevie Wonder than they can any song that Jermaine Dupri did with Janet Jackson. This is what happens when you have people that don't know music, right? Um, a lot of this is the reason why, and I'm not knocking hip hop, but this is the reason why a lot of hip hop use a lot of samples because most hip hop guys can't play an instrument, but they know how to sample. Because sample is easy. You just listen to something, sample it, and put, I'm going to construct a beat. I'm going to add some samples. Let me splice the sample up. And because the music part for them is already done. No, not Velvet Rope, because Velvet Rope actually had a Dallas Austin and other producers that actually know how to do music for Velvet Rope. That's the Velvet Rope's the one that I can go lay. That's the one. That's the song. That's one of the songs on that album. I Get So Lonely, right? That actually had. I'm talking about the Jermaine Dupri production with Janet. It didn't do well. Trust me, it didn't do well at all. So, because Jermaine Dupri has always gotten musicians or other people to help him do production. See, a lot of times when you see Jay-Z or people that are have like that, a lot of people don't know, like, for example, Young Guru, he's a hip-hop producer, was putting a lot of tracks together for Jay-Z. And there are other guys like that was constructing beats for Jay-Z, like Timberland was doing stuff for Jay-Z, but Jay-Z himself isn't doing the same thing with when P. Diddy. P. Diddy himself wasn't doing anything. He had other people doing it for him. He had songwriters and musicians doing stuff for Faith Evans. That's what I mean. Yeah. So, Pete Diddler, pedophile. But anyhow, so I didn't. To me, and this is, let me tell you this, there's a lot of Beyonce people that like Beyonce, but personally, Beyonce was doing all right when she did Crazy in Love, when she did I'll Be Your Naughty Girl, when she did Love on Top. Those are musical arrangements. But a lot of that stuff that she's been doing, I just can't. I'm not really feeling that. I'm not really a big Beyonce fan when it comes to a lot of her stuff. I really like, when they were, Crazy in Love, Love on Top, when she's doing those tracks, or when she did those, because Beyonce, even though she's trying to stay, Beyonce staying relevant, because Beyonce started with Destiny's Child in the 90s. Beyonce's no spring chicken, right? Beyonce, if you think about it, Beyonce is a way better singer if she actually would do stuff that actually complements her voice. But you remember her husband's Jay-Z, so she's got a lot of hip hop influence because of her husband. Prime example is when Dr. Dre when he was producing Truth Hurts. And when she was doing Truth Hurts, and she did that song Addicted, right? And it had that Indian go-go feel to it. But because Dr. Dre, and they try to do stuff with Michelle A, but Dr. Dre he's hip hop. So Truth Hurts career would probably went a lot farther, and had Truth Hurts actually let Teddy Riley or Jimmy Jam produce her. I think Truth Hurts would have been relevant today, because she has that type of voice. Sometimes artists can hurt themselves with the wrong producers. It's no disrespect to Jay-Z or Dr. Dre, because they done phenomenal things for what they do in the hip hop community. But certain artists knows that niche of music need to be, in other words, it's kind of like it's like, for example, yeah, that's right. Yeah, somebody said with Rakim and all that. Yeah, the Truth Hurts, Addicted with Rakim. But once again, they sampled and got themselves in trouble. That song almost went away altogether because they sampled without permission. But let me get back, because I see Snoopy putting first time here, song Pinoy. Okay, first time here. Sorry for the crazy name. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, welcome. I'm going to be here for probably another 15 minutes, because I've been on here for almost 2 hours. Yep. Her new stuff is well recorded and produced, but it's super contrived. Like I said, I'm just, and there was a big controversy with Beyonce. It's the same thing with, with Tony Braxton, when I go babyface with Tony Braxton, because before Tony Braxton, they were really pushing Karen White. And then here comes Tony Braxton, and now all of a sudden, it's the same thing with when Beyonce went solo from Destiny's Child, and they really wanted to push Destiny's Child. All of a sudden, now you don't really hear a whole lot from Amerie, and it's just one thing is by Amerie, right? And so Amerie kind of left the business altogether, which is a shame, because she's a real talented. She half black, half Korean. phenomenal. So and then RJJ says some people used to say Faith couldn't sing early in her career. Faith is a phenomenal singer, but like I said, any singer, they said that about Anita Baker, but I think that I like Faith. Faith really, really, you can tell with Faith, because I've heard her live. You can tell that a lot of times when she sing, Faith can be pitchy just a little bit. So you can definitely tell they probably had to re-record some of her parts in the studio over and over till she got some of those parts right. But there are a lot of singers like that, like Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige is pitchy. They become what they call studio singers, So Putty Prasampa, oh, he said Army vet here, cool. Here, Army band. Okay, so you was like an Army band. So that means you was like what, an old 01, 02, 01, what was your instrument you played in the Army band? When I was joining, I'm a trumpet player, right? When I joined the Army, they didn't tell me about Army the band and auditioning and all that. So when I went to see the recruiter, he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I'm thinking music, and then all of a sudden he didn't say anything about it. So I ended up joining as what they call a test equipment operator. But anyhow, I didn't find out about the Army band until I was in Korea. And of course, I never got into the Army band. But anyhow, Man Clip says that Dr. Dre sampled my great uncle Glenn. I believe it. Anything that's anything they can grab a record they can sample from. Trust me, they did it, and throw a beat to it, or take a beat and they put a sample to it. It's kind of like whoever's known like it's like even with that's what DJs do. They take records and they mix them together. Even with GJ Jazzy Jeff. Like that horn. What's that song that I forget the name of that group. That's on the brand new funk. That's a horn line sample from a group. That's a horn line sample from I recognize the horns. I'm like, he got that from that group. But that's a lot of them. They sample everybody. Luther Vandross, Rick James, you name it. Roger Troutman and Zapp. Who rappers who didn't they sample? Oh, you says, yeah, wrong producer and wrong mixer engineer can hurt. Yeah. The wrong producer can break a artist, and same thing, it even boils down to the musicians. Because the musicians, certain parts they wear, a musician plays parts for the track can make or break the record. There's so many factors to it. And he said Michelle Williams is still in the business. I work with her nephew who is still okay. Good deal. Oh, okay. You said tuba, but I was also recording engineer for 20. Okay, tuba. Yeah, I was a tuba player in the marching band. When I played the marching band, because they switched me from trumpet to tuba, which messed my embouchure up to go back to the tuba. And I carried the brass sousaphone, which used to kill my shoulder. And then they switched to the fiberglass, the sousaphone, which is the white suit, the white ones, what I'm talking about. That was so much easier, and I used to have the pad. It was so much lighter to carry. But in Concert, I played the upright tuba. So playing the tuba was easy. So easy to play. But going back to the trumpet, trying to go my embouchure back up to the trumpet, it kind of, so I couldn't hit high E and high F on the trumpet anymore because it killed my embouchure because, the muscles in your mouth relax, because you don't take as much muscle strength to blow in a tuba mouth. Anyhow, but yeah, I like the tuba. I played that for a few years in high school and college before I joined the Army. Let's see. Man says that there are tons of singers learned to really sing as their careers went on. Anthony uh Anthony Kiedis of Chili Peppers. Okay, I don't listen to Chili Peppers, but okay. The Brad on of the Three Doors, Kid Rock, and a load of others. Okay, so you must listen to a lot of rock. See, I don't really listen to a lot of rock. I listen more R&B and funk and gospel, but I believe you. Um, Maine says some people learn to sing, but Ellis Fitzgerald was a real singer. You think about going back to Ellis Fitzgerald's days. Now we're going to Sarah Vaughan, Billie Holiday. Um, the technology wasn't even there. You're talking to 40, they recording wasn't like it was. So most people, it was common for to sing, you know. That was a common thing to actually be able to sing. Um, but the 80s started changing that, So there's still lots of people that got in that can sing, but you start noticing there's a lot of people that can't sing that got in the business. Like I know, like for example, they're just not good singers. But it's a niche, and that's like those what's it, the Thompson twins? We could dance if we want to. Laser your time behind that no, or whip that whip by Devo. Do 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 do. Those no. Or I won't want 500 miles an hour. I'm done 100. That no. Da, 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 no, those aren't. You compare that and you start listening to an actual like singer like Stevie or Luther Vandross, real singers. Yeah, those, yeah. Um, so this is Jonathan Moffat. Oh, what he did? Yeah, the drummer. Let me tell you, Jonathan Moffat, um, um, as a drummer, his timing is impeccable. I mean, completely accurate. I mean, verbatim. This dude's his inner clock timing makes him one. He's one of the best of the business as a drummer because he can, if you set your metronome to 98 beats per minute, he can play them drums at 98 beats per minute. Steady on. There's some drummers that they'll get a little fast, they'll get a little slow. They might go from 98 to 97 to 99. That's just human nature. And most musicians do that. They don't get, a real good musician don't veer too much off the beats per minute. But he's one of the few that can, like if it's 98 beats per minute, and I mean, even with the rolls and the feels. So Moffat is a beast on the drums. And then Manford says Sugarfoot. Oh yeah, Sugarfoot. Yeah, now you talking about Sugarfoot from Ohio Players? He's actually they're from my hometown. Of course, Sugarfoot, passed away. The drugs got to some of the players, but me and the drummer, his name is Williams Diamond. They call him Diamond. Of the drummer Shelly is his daughter. We went to high school together. So says Man Clip says, how do a rapper find his true voice? It's like singing, right? Well, unless you have unless you're like CeeLo from Goody Mob, or you're like from Missy Elliott, or you're even like Queen Latifah, that they can actually sing, but they can rappers. But most rappers can't sing. A lot of rappers can't sing. That's why there are a lot of them, rappers. A lot of them can't sing. Understand rappers, like they know they couldn't sing. They're not trying to be singers. So like Busta Rhymes is not trying to be a singer. He knows he's not a singer, but he can rap. A man said, I listen to every genre. Most R&B people get into the business already being great vocalists. So I don't have an example there. Yeah, it's like you think about it. I've always said this, when it comes to rock, singers that can actually sing in rock, believe it or not, like Queen, believe it or not, in his prime, the lead singer from Def Leppard, when he was in his prime, was actually a pretty good singer. You think about listen to the harmonies in Photograph on Def Leppard. Rock bands, yeah, Joe Elliott. Um, Rock bands in then, even though you would hear him do that, like especially when you listen to when he Def Leppard singing Hysteria. Um, or when I was listening to, believe it or not, David Lee Roth is actually a good singer. But it was his style when he was singing, lead for Van Halen. Um, and then Sammy Hagar was actually a good singer. A lot of those rock bands in the, I'd say, 70s, 80s, a lot of them were actually really good singers. The only few that was just never a good singer was like, what's his name from AC/DC. But that's his niche that makes AC/DC work. That's why I go, make it black. I hit the sack. It's got to be black. You're getting loose with the new. That's his thing. Because he does that, he doesn't have to be a singer. But R&B, gospel, jazz, R&B, yeah, you got to be, because those are singing, even a lot of pop. Those require for you to be able to sing. That you like a Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston. You have to do that. Oh yeah, like Steve Perry. Another one of my favorite rock boot bands is Journey. Don't Stop Believing. That's one of my favorite songs by them. Yeah. And a lot of people say when they got the replacement, I think the dude was Filipino for Journey. But you can't. Yeah, Steve Perry. It's the same thing with Peter Cetera from Chicago. Singers like that are really actually not replaceable. He tried. Oh yeah, Huey Lewis in the News. I love Huey Lewis in the News. Love Huey Lewis. I listen to it all the time. Dun, 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 dun. I want new drugs. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Do you believe in love? Listen to those harmonies from Huey Lewis in the News. Yeah. Oh, Mutt Lang, yeah, Mutt Lang, epic producer. He's like Rick Rubin, Mutt Lang, producers like that, um, are phenomenal producers. They know how to really bring the song out to its element. That's why producers. They were saying earlier about producers can make or break you. Yeah, they can. That's what killed Truth Hurts. I know that Dr. Dre was trying to push Truth Hurts' career, but he should have let Teddy Riley produce Truth Hurts. I think Truth Hurts' career, she would still be relevant today. Okay, he's talking about Sugarfoot from okay, because I'm thinking about you talking about Sugarfoot from Ohio Players, but yes, yeah, Sugarfoot, they do, yeah, I forgot they do, yeah. And then the best lesson learned was taught out of necessity in the Army band. Don't restrict yourself to genre. You can learn from every genre. Yeah, I listen to a lot of genres: country, rock, R&B, gospel, jazz, some hip hop, not all of it. I listen to older hip hop. You gotta take me back to like I go back to here we go now. Here we back to drawing who's the black sheep? What's the black sheep? Brand new with Tribe Called Quest. I go back to the Heavy D, when Queen Latifah, Special Ed, even with Wu-Tang Clan. That's my era of hip hop. I'm like Biggie Smalls and older hip hop. Even when Busta Rhymes was leader of the new school, so let me read a few more because I'm at to cut it off. Let me see. Let me see. He says, if you have not yet need to listen to Sleep Token, they broke genre. Oh, okay. Never heard of them, but okay. I'll make a note of that. Sleep Token. Okay. Do I like the song Frederick Gentle Calling Your Name? I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of him, so I have to check them out too. Yeah, Steve Perry. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, you know, it's a shame that they couldn't, Journey, they broke up because you know, most groups break up because of, either financial reasons, um, jealousy reasons, um, record label disputes. There's a whole bunch of reasons, drugs. Um, so yep. Um, Man, we got a whole bunch of names from Alan Pineda. Yes, the Filipino guy. Yeah, I thought so. Arnel Pineda. Yeah. I think he came close to Steve Perry, but you just can't. And the man said Peter Cetera. Yeah, I love. Yeah. I was playing that the other day. Hard Habit to Break. You be here forever. Another illusion. I'm not a singer, but I love that song. Um, so and you asked if I had to pick one new rapper that I like, who would it be? That's new? There ain't no one new. A lot of people like Kendrick Lamar. I'm just, like I said, the rappers that I like, and it's just, I think it's because of the rap style. I just don't like this. What you want to do? Hey, I got my money. Hey, and it just, I don't know, it's something about that versus, I'm sorry, my dude was Tupac. I just Tupac, um, Guru from Gangstar, um, um, MC Breed, Ain't No Future in Your Frontin'. He passed away. Guru passed away. Um, I just, it's just those rappers, Heavy D. I like LL, you know, LL Cool J, even though LK started doing movies and TV shows, but I like LL, LL. Um, so yeah, Kevin Sullivan said, if this is love, yep. If this is love, do please let me know. Yeah, so that's my song too. Um, oh yeah, of course, Kenny Loggins. One of my favorite songs by Kenny Loggins is I love that song. Heaven, I'm free. Um, he's also did Footloose. Yeah, but I just wish Kenny Loggins had did more stuff because I'm Free by Kenny Loggins is one of my favorite songs by him. So, oh man, like but Tone Loc, Tone Loc was hit or miss with me. Um, so it just depends. Don't Schmidt said the scenario. Um, Not familiar with the scenario. So if they're fairly new, they've been out for probably in the last 2010 and up. I'm probably not really listening to them. I appreciate it. Great to find me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm about to wrap it up. Yeah, have it. Yeah, I usually do this on Sunday. I hadn't did it in a few weeks. I usually do these live streams on Sunday. I was going to do it yesterday, but I had to see the Chiefs get spanked 40-22 because I was just burnt out on the Chiefs. I'm not no knocking Mahomes. He's a great quarterback and not knocking the Chiefs and all that because they're a great team, but I was a little burnt out. I was just like, I was glad Philly put it on them. And they were, even at halftime, they were 24-0. I'm like, yeah. So I don't think that sound kind of mean, but it's the truth. Some people are probably hardcore Chiefs, but I'm not. I ain't never been a Chiefs fan. So like I said, I'm at some of these people. I'm gonna go back and check them out because like I said, I haven't. Some guys music said E40. I was never really big into E40. Um, some people like E40. I really wasn't big into E40, but I did like Method Man. I do like Method Man. Some of the stuff that he's putting, um, Method Man was part of Wu-Tang Clan. Biggie's 100. Our man says my favorite rapper is Will Smith. Can't tell I'm white. Actually, people don't, other than Will Smith's gonna forever be known about the slap now. Forget Independence Day, forget his movies, forget the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. He's known as a slap guy now. But aside of that, if you really listen to, especially in the early days, especially listen to Brand New Funk, it's true. It's out of the ordinary. Yo, it's commentary. You bust a little weary. Genius and a superior beat creator. It come together. Musical composition, which I think is if you go back and listen to that, Will Smith can actually flow, but that's how he started as a rapper. He's actually a good rapper, but people, so. And then Vigilante said, shout out to MC Bree, one of the first big rappers out of ain't no future in your fronting. That beat still goes hard. That little sign sounded, man. That I still listen to Ain't No Future in the Front, especially the video. That was how you rode those whips. They would take those cars and they would take Mazda trucks and cut the back off and slam them and put Dayton's, and that was the look in the 90s. Yeah, that was but that was my song in the 90s when I was stationed at Fort Hood. I used to jam Ain't No Future in Your Frontin' all the time when I was stationed at Fort Hood. So also say, let me see. Also, you have a big chance to check out the Roy Is Everything. He is a producer and rapper I work with. Okay. Oh, dude is fine. Okay. I haven't heard of him. But I'll like I said, when I go back and look at all these everyone that everyone's mentioned, I'll check them out. Like remember, I'm old school, so I'm an older guy, so I'm kind of stuck in my So he said, "Have you heard of LL or Redman's recent albums?" I know that one he's doing that one that LL's doing with Eminem. LL wanted to show everyone that he can still spit. So, and then Maine said Tupac was a poet, and then Bree, yeah, a lot of people like Bree. Man said, what about Bobby? Oh man, what you won't do for love? I mean, that's Bobby Caldwell's all-time number one. That was his, and believe it or not, Bobby Caldwell said they needed a song filler for the album to complete the album. So he wrote the song What You Won't Do for Love in 15 minutes. That became his number one hit. Dun, dun, ba-da-ba-ba-ba. You believe it or not, I was being sarcastic. On my earlier video, I did What You Won't Do for Love featuring cheap Behringer gear. I actually do Bobby Caldwell's song. I wanted people like, oh, Behringer gear cheap and junk, and so I recorded it through my Behringer console downstairs to let people say, oh, and then everyone's like, oh, that sounds good. Yeah, it's not as cheap as you think it is. But anyhow, so I did that. I can't forget the Blue Eye Soul of Mike. Oh yeah. I can't do whatever you oh no, I can't do Michael McDonald, but yeah, Michael McDonald's a beast. You got that especially when you start with the Doobie Brothers. What a fool. Time Clips E40 choices. Eazy was one of my favorite, and I'm well, the sad part, and there's a conspiracy. They actually think that Eazy-E was injected with the AIDS virus because Eazy-E was making a lot of enemies, especially after the whole breakup with NWA. Ice Cube going his way, Dr. Dre going his way, then Eazy-E. because Easy, all of a sudden, 94, he gets sick. And 90, it's kind of like it's mysterious how all of a sudden he just died of AIDS. Because they say that how do you get AIDS? Two ways: drugs or sex, right? And Easy was definitely not gay. So, you know, who knows? I don't see Easy being the type to do drugs. But you know, now if you talk now, unlike the lead singer from Intro, which is sad, one of my favorite R&B groups is Intro. Well, Kenny, the lead singer for Intro, was actually bisexual. That's how he died of AIDS. He's messing with dudes and girls, so he's bisexual. But Easy dying of AIDS, and he wasn't, yeah, man. Say I think he was. I just, because Easy, think about it. And Ice Cube think it has something to do with the label because Ice Cube and the label and the dispute, and Ice Cube was trying to warn Easy and Dr. Dre about being under that label. I think that's how a lot of artists start to, it's kind of like, it's mysterious about Whitney Houston's drowning. And I'm always a little suspect because I know the music industry is a dirty business. And, when it comes to money, there's the dark side to the music industry. We don't talk about it enough, but there's a dark side to the industry. And there's some very dirty, conniving people. And prime example of some of that dirt, prime example of what's going on, look at P. Diddy and look at R. Kelly, Harvey Weinstein, and look at the music and entertainment world altogether. This is the dirt that no one ever talks about, but it's out there. And he's like, why do you think so many artists, and it ain't nothing new. They've been doing it since the 40s. Why do you think people like that die young, like Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, why was these artists, back in the 40s, it wasn't crack or cocaine. It was back then, it was heroin, and think about it. Charlie Parker, Thelonious Monk, and think about so many artists that got hooked on drugs. Everywhere from, Shaka Khan is still trying to work her addiction. She's 70-something years old, and she still got an addiction problem. That's why she half the time you listen to Shaka Khan, half the time she's high. Whitney Houston. So yeah. Man says, oh man says, thanks for going live. Like I said, I need to get back. Like I said, with everything going on, I needed to do this to take my mind off of what else is going on. And then say, man said, I forgot about Bobby Caldwell. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Even though he had a lot of songs, he did that duet, "It's Cold Outside" with Vanessa Williams. But Bobby Caldwell is an amazing singer. Most people didn't know that he was white. So, because back then the video and album covers, they would just do artwork for album covers, and there was no video. Video didn't start until 81. So you didn't know what half these artists look like. For years, I didn't know what the lead singer of SOS Band looked like. But you would hear their music on the radio all the time. You're like, what do they look like? Unless you went to go see them in concert. So oh, you talking about Michael? You love it. You say you can't do it, but you just oh, Michael, what a fool believe. Yeah. I like to sit down. Okay, you tell me some crazy dark stories. I had a music. I've been in it since I was 30. Okay, cool. Yeah, one day we have to meet. Yeah, we have to meet. I go to Nashville to the Guitar Center all the time. I'm not that far from Nashville, so. But yeah, this is yeah, the music industry is something else. So, check out the dark side to it. If you watch a lot of if you watch a lot of unsung and listen to their stories. My cousin Don, I showed her book. I'll put her book over there. She's a seen background with Parliament Funkadelic. She's seen background with Sly and the Family Stone. She's seen background with Gavin. She used to date Charlie Wilson. That's my cousin. She's my second cousin. In her book, she talked about the dark side, but I kind of knew that. When I left active duty and started working in the reserves, and I got with this independent record label, and we did our group called A Different Taste, and we got a taste of the music industry. I saw then, I was like, oh, the music industry is dirty. So when I left the reserves and went back on active duty, because I like, well, I need to have financial security. So I stayed in and went back in and did my time to retire, and my 20 plus years, and I retired and stayed in and retired. Because I need that comfort level, because I was like, I know there's a lot of star musicians, but I wasn't trying to starve, because it's risky. Like, so, and being a veteran, use my VA benefit to get my house and all that. I wanted some financial stability. But so time for Funkadelic, my people, yeah, let me tell you, yeah. And I'll tell you a quick story of how she got with Funkadelic. Because my cousin, she's out of Sacramento, California. Well, Sly and the Family Stone is out of California. And Sacramento's not that far. It's not that far from LA, a few hours. And she was singing in groups. And she met some people that said, hey, Sly he need background singers. You got to go down and introduce yourself, whatever. So she went down there and he liked her. And before you know it, she's singing background with him. And now she's touring with them. And because, artists collaborate with other artists to do shows. So Sly and the Family Stone funk band, and then, George Clinton, all of them got together and they started touring. And then when Sly and the Family Stone started falling apart because of drugs, the background singers, what they were called the Brides of Funkenstein, jumped from Sly and the Family Stone to Parliament Funkadelic. And they toured for a while, and then they intermixed with the Gap Band. And of course, when you intermittent with each other, you collect numbers, you network. And then they end up with, as Funkadelic started having their issues, she jumped over to the Gap Band. But they all interact with so many bands and groups, from doing all these shows. So that's how that happened. But she explains a lot of the dirt. Because, in her book, she's got pictures of, with her with these groups and her dating Charlie Wilson. She's got pictures in her book. I never knew that. I'm like, Don, but then again, Don was torn and all that. And my, my immediate family, Ohio, and my other family in Colorado and California and all that, because I got family all over the country. I never knew that until I read the book. I was like, I didn't know you dated Charlie. She's like, yeah, we dated for years. I'm like, that's crazy. So, but Charlie Wilson was on drugs real bad and he got homeless. And he couldn't, so after getting out of rehab and all that, now Charlie ended up meeting the wife that he got now. And now Charlie Wilson is kind of, but the music industry is something else. People wonder how Rick James and all these artists on drugs, because drugs is the number one problem in the music and in the entertainment world altogether. Drugs. And a lot of people get hooked. And it don't happen just to singers. It happens to actors, directors. Yeah, it's a mess. Drugs, alcohol, sex scandals. It's amazing, the dark side of the industry. Y'all have heard about how some of these rappers are getting caught up into these, they get these guys to get into these sex acts so they can have leverage over them. It's almost like almost like, what do you call it? Blackmailing. If you don't do this for us, we got this over your head. And so many people have started explaining. That's why the whole thing about the whole scandal with P. Diddy came out. P. Diddy having these sex parties and all that. That's a real thing. So, but anyhow, let me read a few more comments. My RCA level rep had me addicted to. Yeah, I can believe that. You as a person has to, like me, I'm fortunate I've never got hooked on drugs, but you have to make a decision how you're going to control your life, because if you don't, other people will try to control it for you. Industry is really bad. And you'll see that not just the internet industry. Look at politics. Anything where there's rich, anything that deals with money and power, you got dark sides to it. And this is how they get leverage. This is why I think politicians the way they are. You know. So let me see. Man said you need to set up a Zoom session. I do. Matter of fact, I just got off the phone. It's a new year, and I need. But here's the thing: when I do set up the zone, I'm only going to be able to probably do a max of 10 people at a time. So I'm probably going to have to do it where we have to reserve Zoom times to do that, because if I have, let's say 100 people in here, that becomes uncontrollable, because Zoom, its camera's gonna, and you got people trying to. So I need to do it in sessions like that, probably a max of 10 people at a time. So that's going to be the plan, to reserve Zoom times, and I was thinking how to do that. So that's coming. I haven't forgot about that. That's coming. So, and then I see someone said Redman slap song. Oh, okay. Yeah, I listen to Redman. I listen to some of Redman, but I'm not as big of a Redman fan like I like Method Man. Method Man and Redman are like tight, right? They're like boys. So let me see. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, he disappeared with family work by help. Okay, yeah. Oh, said James Brown never did drugs until he did drugs. Then he did drugs. Yeah, James Brown, he being stupid, he even kidnapped the girl. I mean, drugs. It's like what James said. He was serious when he was in that chart, when Dave Chappelle talking about when they were talking about when he put his feet on Eddie Murphy's couch and all that, and he cocaine's a hell of a drug, he was serious. Look what happened to Alexander O'Neal. Alexander O'Neal, you could definitely tell he was on drugs. Probably, that addiction is something else. Yep. He said, yeah, a lot of stuff like Britney control. Yeah, it's just, that's why I said when you really get into the music industry or the entertainment world or anything like that, be really, really careful and understand what you're getting into. It goes deep, and a lot of times they'll trick these artists into getting hooked on drugs because, hey, take this drug, it'll keep you up because when you're touring, like you think about it, your show starts at 8:00 and it goes from 8 to 11:30, right? Because you still have probably some opening acts. By the time you get done, you have to put the set has to be torn down. You have to get on the road because in 2 days, you just left Dallas. In 2 days, you got to be down in Houston to tour. Then the next day you leave Houston, you got to be in San Antonio the next day. So you got to leave that night, get into the hotel room because you got to do sound check. And then you have enough time. You might have to go to a radio for a half an hour to do a radio spot. Then you have to go do a sound check. And then the show starts at 8:00 in San Antonio. Then after that, you got to be in LA in 2 days. So you're beat. You're tired. So there a lot of times they try to get you here, take this to take the edge off. And before you know it, I mean, it happened to Michael Jackson and everyone else, Prince, and people. Prince. People thought Prince wasn't taking drugs. Yeah, Prince was taking drugs, like all of them. It's like, why you think he OD'd? He OD'd on the drugs he was taking. Prince didn't do drugs. Yeah, he did. A lot of times, artists don't always disclose the dirt they're doing. But you'd be amazed. Most artists are not as clear or not as innocent as people portray them to be. Yeah. Oh, is it man spent a year in rehab and clean so? Yeah, it's hard. I'm just glad that y'all got to give a shout out to man for actually being sober, because that's a lot of people, they can't break it. um, they can't break it. So it's a hard drug because I lost the bass player that plays for our church from drugs. He couldn't break it. He could not break it. Bad bass player, cold bass player, couldn't break the habit. Um, so that's the reason why people, even right now, when they smoke or drink, because my mom used to smoke weed. Um, I had uncles that were, they were alcoholics. Um, I just told myself I saw what I saw what drugs and alcohol would do to people. That's why I said I would never do that, because people, once they get hooked on that, it's hard to break. It is really hard to break being an alcoholic or a drug addict. It's really, really hard. So, um, I tell anyone, you got to get in a good support base to help you get away from that. That's awesome. 17 years clean and sober. So clean and sober. That's awesome. That is awesome. I applaud you. I really do. I got to give you my military salute. Because if you can break that, you have done your life a lifetime of justice. So once again, it's been great. It's like I said, I'm start getting back to trying to do these live streams. Like I said, it's just so much chaos going on right now. And I had to get my mind back um off all that. So this is actually, at first I know I wanted to do this because but it does take my mind off everything else, and it's just, it is nice to interact with people. So like I said, on the Zoom, like I said, I'll just set it up in increments of 10 and reserve where we can do Zoom time, and that's coming. So appreciate everyone tuning in for tonight. It's over 2 hours. So once again, thanks everyone, and we'll guess you see you next time. And I appreciate everyone that tuned in, and the people that came in for the first time. And we'll see you next time. My hats to everyone. Like, once again, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Now I'm out.